Um, do you have a rough idea yet of how deep you want your rotation to go?
Yeah, I mean, we have a great veteran group on the bench. Other than our starters, obviously bringing Dennis and Josh and some of those guys along, as well as the young guys. So we have a ton of quality players. It'll play itself out to some extent in training camp and preseason, but we feel comfortable with 10 to 12 of our guys. It's just a matter of, like I mentioned earlier, game by game scheme and coverage and who we're guarding and who we're playing. But we feel comfortable with 12. As I mentioned, it'll play itself out over these last 3 preseason games, last 2 weeks of training camp, and we'll see where we get in the game. It's hard to play 12 guys obviously every night, and 9, 10 is a more manageable number, and so that's where the competition lies, and how they'll play in the games and what we're seeing in practice.
Go back to in-person question with Brian Robb.
I mean, what just after watching the film, did anything stick out to you more, either good or bad, just based on what you'd already seen in real time there?
Yeah, the good was the unselfishness, the pace they played with. They really worked hard at what we've been trying to put in the first few days of training camp and the scrimmages. So they were very unselfish. At times, it felt like too unselfish at the start of the game. I think we had some turnovers by passing up shots, but the pace was great. Defensively, there was some slippage in some areas on those switches that we just talked about. But overall, the missing shots was what left a bad taste in your mouth during the game. But when you go back and watch the film, the quality of shots were there. Guys were moving the ball, being unselfish, and we know we're going to shoot it better when we get those same looks. So, not to take away from what we did that night. I mentioned the other night an ugly win based on the shooting, but overall the way we played was great, unselfish, fast-paced, and defensively we did some good things, holding the team to 97 points.
Gary Washburn.
Hey, Ime, your first game as a head coach. One, are you good with not dressing up, or would you like the suit and boot for games?
I enjoy the suits, but I voted for the comfortable, less packing deal. So I think most coaching staffs across the board, I think it was close to 80% voted for not dressing up. We saw what it was like in the bubble and then traveling last year. So I think it's just a comfort thing. Obviously less packing, and probably the guys don't want to buy that many suits. So it's comfortable for everybody. And I was staying with it based on last year, but I am a guy that likes the suits, and I don't really mind. But I talked to my staff, and they all wanted to keep it simple, so I roll with them.
In your coaching style, you have to develop that in terms of your first game. Basically, are you going to stand up the whole game? You sit down? Are you talking constantly back and forth to your assistants? Like, how will you develop that style? Because obviously, certain head coaches have different styles of how they coach.
Yeah, I mean, I like to coach hands-on, on the fly, so to speak, in the games. Talked about adjustments in some of our schemes, so I got to be up there and be vocal with the players. And I put a lot on my coaching staff, the assistants, to relay messages with some substitution patterns, getting guys ready as far as that. But a little bit of both. Depends on how the game is flowing. I like to give the players freedom to be coaches out there, and I feel Dennis and Marcus have done a great job throughout camp. So not trying to come down and call plays. They know the package that we have off of makes and misses. So I'll get up and mention the coverage or call out a play if I have to.
Finally, working of officials, will you be a constant talker to officials trying to get calls, or are you only going to say something when you need to?
Only when needed. I've stressed that to our team, and we got a little chippy out here today in practice, just, guys getting after it. And I said, let me bitch at the refs. You guys play through plays and move on to the next thing, and let me be the guy who complains to the ref. But that's not the team we want to be, and that's not who I am. So, I don't want the team to start crying about every call. I told them to play through things from day one in camp. We got some young guys who are not official referees here, so they're going to have bad calls in practice and get used to it for the game. So we're not going to be the team that cries the whole time. That's definitely not me.
Rod Blakely.
Coach, you mentioned a little bit about just your assistant staff and such. Curious, what was your process figuring out which coaches would work with which players?
Yeah, I targeted specifically Damon Stoudemire to be with Marcus. Obviously he played at the NBA level for many years and was a great player. So wanted him to kind of impart that knowledge on Marcus. Other guys had some previous relationships with guys. Ben had coached Al and Dennis in Atlanta. So I put Ben with Dennis, and then the other guy I really wanted was Aaron Miles with Jason. Tony Dobbins was here. He had Jalen before, so we had some continuity with some guys, Joe as well. But the other guy I really stressed was Aaron Miles being with Jason. He did a great job with Draymond and Andrew Wiggins, some of those guys in Golden State. And so wanted him to come really focus on Jason and some of the things he wants to work on, and he's done a great job with them.
Yeah, and just to follow up to that, you mentioned Aaron. What are some of the things that you saw that are kind of translatable coaching things that he could bring from that Golden State experience to Boston?
Well, I talked about our staff in general. We got a lot of people that came from winning programs. So, the NBA in general, we all steal stuff from each other, and they've kind of told me some things they've done there. Had Will Hardy and Ben Sullivan, obviously, in San Antonio. So we're very familiar with each other, but just taking things from different programs. And then what Aaron has brought is his personality and his relatability with those guys. He really does a great job with the guys. And that's why I really targeted him with Jason, watching what he did in Golden State.
You heard Weiss?
When you started Wancho the other night, you said that you don't really need to see Al in the starting lineup right away because you know Al well. I'm wondering how much have you used Al and Rob together in camp? And do you have a comfort level with how that's working? And I guess what is it about Al besides the fact that he's really old that you kind of you're confident you don't really need to see him out there because you know how he's going to work?
Yeah, we've had several different lineups here. We've gone big and small, and we've seen Al with Rob quite a bit, and they're doing a great job. And I mentioned how well Al has played since he's shown up in the building. And so knowing what Al brings, it's more so seeing the young guys with those groups. And I talked about that a little bit, but we'll see Al out there in starting lineups as well in the preseason. But what I was more so saying was that we know what we have with Al. We've seen him in practice. We know the steady leadership he brings and what he brings, the contrasting style to some of our smaller four men. So we know that already as a matter of seeing the other guys there. And Al's been great from day one. I mentioned that. And it's almost like let's see other things because we know what Al's going to bring, the steady, leadership every night.
Is there something about the way Al plays that you don't need him to actually get those game reps out there the same way other guys do because he just already kind of knows everyone's tendencies and knows how to play with
Yeah,
them?
I would say part of that is, his veteran experience, but, he has a contrasting style to some of our other bigs. And so we wanted to stagger that as well and have him be a stretch five when he's in there as opposed to Ennis and Robert. So we're looking at that as well to see who works at in different positions at the five, but when we can slide him to the four, we know what he's going to do as well. Space the floor, be a post-up threat, and be a great initiator of the offense.
Brought to you by your New England Ford dealers, who are celebrating Ford Truck Month with great deals on Ranger, Super Duty, and the redesigned F-150. Ford Trucks, built Ford tough.